film's the athlete. It's about the Ethiopian marathon runner Abebe Bikila, who was the first African to win a gold medal in the Olympics. And he won that gold medal running barefoot in Rome in 1960. And then he followed that with a consecutive win for the first time in the marathon in '64 in Tokyo. Then he was running in '68 in Mexico City and had an injury. He dropped out and was then the man who won the '68 marathon was actually his teammate, Mama Wolde, which is another reason why he's a little bit lost to history, because he was succeeded by a fellow countryman. So then after that, he was training to go to Munich in '72, and tragedy struck. And that's sort of the gist of the movie, is following him through his final years of his life and how he deals with the tragedy. It's sort of a road movie. I mean, you're traveling with him on the day of his tragedy, and so the car is the person or the thing, I guess, that he's interacting with the most on that day. And also I think the idea that he had this car was significant, because not many people had cars, or Africans had cars at that point. So it sort of shows his status a little bit as having, you know, he's the great hero at that point in time, or had been very recently. So having been promoted through the ranks by the emperor in the Imperial Guard, he obviously does pretty well for himself salary-wise, and he is able to have a car. And so there's even a little joke about that with the priest in the car and how he has the car and that he's lucky to have one. So knowing that we were going to be traveling in the car for a good portion of the film, the car became very important to us. And sort of in the very beginning, we set up that environment, and he's in this vehicle, and you're seeing pieces of the car and what he's traveling with, and sort of creating his environment and sort of the character that he's traveling with, his companion, as it were. A few reasons why we decided to use the actual archival material. One main reason was, okay, we're a low-budget independent film. How are you going to recreate Rome in 1960, the Olympics, no less? I mean, in fact, we did manage to have one scene where we have a room full of 500 Ethiopia extras, but going to Italy and trying to shoot in Rome, it was actually cheaper to license Olympic footage than to actually try and shoot that. So that was one of the reasons. The other one is that, I mean, watching the actual man run is amazing. I mean, some of the footage of him running, the intensity, and the reality of actually seeing this guy running barefoot is intense. And I think everyone reads it as archival footage, as the real thing. And I think that gives it all the more presence and intensity, because you know that this has actually really, really happened. It's not someone pretending that it happened. But that was always a question for us, whether or not we were going to be able to make that transition between our actor and the actual man in the old footage. But amazingly enough, as we started screening the movie, like the wall between those two just fell away. And we've actually never ever had anyone say, it was a little weird for me to have him and him next to each other. And I think that's the unique way in which we use the archival footage and the seamless nature with which it flows back and forth. And a lot of that, because we had seen the films while we were writing the script, a lot of that was written into the script about how we're going to transition from this shot in our movie into this particular shot in the old footage. And so a lot of that stuff was kind of worked out to help us get the flow through and in and out. And we overlap the dialogue. So you have our characters speaking over archival footage sometimes, and then you also have the archival narrator speaking over our footage. And so there's a lot of ways in which we kind of blend the two together, and it's worked out marvelously so far.